In this episode, we'll be exploring the concept of collaborative selling with Fred Copestake from over in the UK, author, founder, been in the sales game for 20, 30 odd years, so knows it like the back of his hand. And we just kept going and going. This is a bit of a longer episode than we normally do, but it's filled with gold nuggets. So jump in and enjoy. All right, welcome to another episode of Revenue Mechanics, where we're diving under the hood to see what makes revenue engines tick and speaking to experts that not only I want to learn from, but hopefully everyone that's watching as well can learn from as well. And today, we've got a really special guest who's been in the game since before I could barely walk. So many years of experience and author, founder, the list of accolades goes on. Fred, welcome to the podcast.
Well, I don't know how welcome I feel. It made me feel all old.
Well seasoned.
So I'm ancient.
Yeah, there's what's the old saying? With age comes wisdom, or something like that. You don't look much older than me, so I'll give you that.
I've got the filters on.
Good lighting, good lighting.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
But how I've run these podcasts so far is I don't necessarily want to get into too much of like people's life stories and how'd you get into sales, what was your dream when you were a kid, or any of that sort of stuff. I just want to jump into like the nitty-gritties of what you're seeing today and what you're doing today. And we had obviously a bit of a chat prior to this around some of the we'll say less than conventional methods that have started to, especially on LinkedIn and some of these social channels, be broadcasted as the way of selling. But I know you're a big proponent of collaborative selling, which is something that I vouch for as well. Obviously, being on the same page with buyers. Is collaborative selling something that you've been doing since day one, or is that something that you've been introducing more recently?
It's a bit more recently. I think it's how sales has evolved, and that's something that I get a bit geeky about and sort of look to understand. And
Yeah.
I have been around a bit. I first started training sales 24 years ago. So I was in sales before that. And so I was looking at what we were training then. It's very different to now because there's been advances. There's been things that have happened as we've kind of come through I split stuff into decades because it's a bit easier to understand. And, good salespeople will go along with these. And so the next iteration for the 20s, having gone through, I don't know, so from consultative sales is 90s, value-based selling noughties, building a sales stature and a reputation is 10s, into the 20s, collaborative selling. So thinking like a partner and working alongside your customer to help them think and make sense of stuff so they get the best solution for the outcomes they're looking for. It just seems like that natural evolution. That's why I wrote the book, Selling Through Partnering Skills. So like using those skills that good partners have to think like a partner and collaborate better with your customer. And it doesn't have to be a formal business alliance. Every single partner, every single customer, think like a partner, and you'll do a better job.
And how do you start, or how do you start getting sales teams and sales leaders, founders thinking in this way and starting to operate in a collaborative partner-based model?
So one of the things that we do on training is introduce them to PQ. And so PQ, I think it's like the lesser known cousin of IQ and EQ. So EQ is your emotional intelligence. IQ is like that traditional intelligence test, which is kind of only sort of verbal, spatial, and logical reasoning.
Yeah.
Whereas PQ is partnering skills. And I didn't make this stuff up. A guy called Steve Dent researched this back in the late 80s, early 90s, looking at what makes a good partner. Because he was doing projects on, when the airlines were coming together, weren't they, and building these big sort of things. And they're saying, how can we do this better? So he went in, had a look, and kind of long story short, came out with, well, organizations don't partner, people do. And so it's the people skills that when you look at those, if we've got them, we will do a better job. So I looked at these 6 skills. I was like, well, that's every single sale, isn't it? If you threaded that into the way that you work, and this ready-made kind of thing we can refer back to, you'll be a better salesperson. You'll have a better sales organization. So we use that as a basis. That feeds into the framework I use. Then I kind of look at all the stuff that's gone on before that still works. There's still some good stuff. There's some really bad stuff as well, but yeah, there's some still good stuff which we sometimes just need to shift up a little bit with some modern advances, and we thread those into the model which we'll look at. But the starting point is understanding what that collaborative mindset is.
Yeah, and if you had to explain or give the elevator pitch for what that collaborative mindset is, how would you summarize it?
Okay, so rather than the elevator pitch, if I go through the 6 elements, because this stuff has been validated and verified. So it's not a sort of synthetic version of me trying to do it in 30 seconds
Theory.
before we hit the lobby and I'm waiting to buy me a coffee.
Yeah.
What have we got in it? Trust. Okay, trust the foundation to kind of all communication relationships. Win-win focus. Yeah, we're looking for mutual benefit. We want to come out of it so both parties are happy with what we're doing. Comfort with interdependence. So being interdependent. My success is your success as a salesperson, as a sales organization. The outcomes, the results that we're trying to get people to get. Transparency. So giving information, sharing, all that kind of stuff. Comfort with change. We are change agents. We sell change. We have to understand what change is like for people. And we've got to do stuff differently ourselves too.
Yeah.
And then having a future orientation. So looking towards, what is the goal? What's the thing that we're trying to achieve? And making decisions based on heading forward to that. Take those 6 elements. Try and argue with me that salespeople shouldn't do that. But then think about, okay, let's build those into how we operate. And this is a sort of our foundations. We'll be more collaborative in the way we do stuff.
Yeah, and it sounds very different to the models that are very much spoken about on, we'll say LinkedIn is probably one of the more vocal channels for sellers and marketers and people in this sort of space, where many are adopting and taking the approach of sell the meeting, then push them into the next step, then push them into the next step. And eventually you can pitch them when they've reached that step of the process. And then when you pitch them, don't hang up until they say yes or no, which sounds the complete opposite of collaborative, where you're just shoving someone into your own process. Do you come across that often in your consulting, or is that just a vocal segment on LinkedIn that is doing their own thing?
Oh, there's lots going on in that question, mate. Now, LinkedIn is very, very vocal around that. It's skewed, and it's like the whole of sales is SaaS, is tech.
Yeah.
Whereas it's probably like a 1% or 2% of the whole sales world. But a lot of people in that world hang around on LinkedIn. And so, of course, it's predictable revenue, and that sales motion that you talked about is really popular.
Yeah.
And then people talk about it, and it sometimes feels really coercive, which is like the opposite of collaborative.
Yeah.
That you're trying to force people into your selling process because that's what suits you, because you are trying to drive your revenue.
Yeah.
Again, there's nothing wrong with making money, and that's kind of what we do, what we're all trying to do. But it just feels as though these are under your terms, and it kind of doesn't really take into account. Well, what about the buying process? What is the steps that somebody is going through to try to make sense of something, to figure out their problems and work out a better way to do something?
Yeah.
It's just like, no, I want you to do stuff my way. Whereas, more collaborative seller will be saying, well, okay, there is a buying journey, and I need to understand what that is and try and align to that and make that work better. Now, I think there's very smart people in kind of the predictable revenue world. They'll say, oh, no, we're trying to do that, and this is what our questions are for. And it's like, well, no, because you're trying to say, oh, I can get someone from disco to demo in 30 minutes. Okay, maybe you can in that world. It's like it's not one that really interests me, to be honest. The people I work with it just wouldn't work. It just doesn't make any sense to them. So they're broadly ignorant to it, to be honest. They just don't even know it exists and probably don't care. So,
and what you mentioned then,
I don't have to deal with it.
yeah, and you're probably lucky to not have to handle that stuff. But what you mentioned then around actually building to the buyer journey and building back, like one of my staples at our company is to help build better buying experiences with businesses, and obviously help their customers go through, or their prospects go through, a buying journey that matches how they want to buy. And there are a few vocal people in that space that talk about mapping the buying journey to how the buyers want to buy, and they're sort of heralded or put on a pedestal around, like, oh my God, this is revolutionary. who thinks like this? But it sounds like you've been doing this for the better part of a couple of decades.
Um, I would say, early doors, it probably was a little bit more, we are in sales for ourselves. And if I look back, and I'm brutal with myself, first training sessions, yeah, we were talking about asking questions, but questions were to qualify customer to find stuff out so I could give them our solution.
Like,
And that's where a lot of people are still stuck at.
yeah.
Whereas it's like, well, no, we're asking questions to help people make sense of stuff so that we can progress on that journey together.
Mm.
Mapping buying journey, though, I mean, I don't know if we can.
Yeah,
We-
it's
okay, I don't, well, we can map sales process where we go, we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this. Okay, cool. And then we say, well, let's just map it to a buying journey where the customer goes, right, I have a need. I must specify criteria. I must evaluate options. I'm not sure people think like that. They don't know what step they're at. If
yeah,
anything, it's like this squiggly, messy sort of line where they're trying to fumble their way along. And what we can do then is we can provide stuff for that. So it could be that it is the salesperson that's coming in and giving them information or asking them questions or sharing a perspective or something that's helping them get their head around stuff.
yeah,
Could be marketing that are providing stuff. It could be the salesperson producing marketing like material. So if we're smart at doing all these things, the customer who wants to make their own way along, now whether that's because they've just had such bad buying experiences, don't know, yeah, or just there is more information out there, and so they'll just try to do it, save time.
mm.
We can help that, and we can position ourselves to be in a better place for having that conversation and helping them when they want to do the face-to-face stuff.
Yeah,
So that's a little bit more reactive. The other thing you can do, and this does take time, effort, investment, is to go, right, let's think about what that process might look like, the buying process. And so let's go backwards. So rather than hang around and wait for an RFP and somebody is in that, 3% of market is in buy mode, go backwards and upwards. So into a more senior level where we can go in with something interesting and we can stimulate their thinking that maybe there is something that they should be looking at that isn't quite on their agenda yet, or is about to go on the agenda, or is very much on their agenda, and we know it is, and we can help them with it.
yeah,
That's a different thing to just trying to do 200 calls a day, hoping that of that, two of them are somebody who's in the right place at the right time.
yeah.
That just sounds like crazy waste of time to me. I'd prefer to spend a ton of time researching to then go into a senior person, kickstarting the thinking, and then moving through the whole thinking journey with them.
Yeah, and it sort of ties into the old buyer's pyramid principle. I don't know who originally came up with it. I've seen Chet Holmes or Eugene Schwartz and all these different people talk about it, but the 3% that are in market looking to buy, the 7% that are thinking about buying, the 30% that are problem aware but not looking at buying, and then the other 30% that are problem unaware but do have the problem, and then 30% that just don't care. But everyone wants to go after that 3% at the top that are in market now, where there's a wide range of your ICP and your total addressable market that are at different stages of awareness. And that's what I like to map our clients through, is the helping someone move from problem unaware to problem aware to solution aware to product aware, etc. But as you said, like that process is not linear. Like they can go backwards, forwards, up, down. The problem that they became aware of then stimulated another problem, so now they're thinking about something else, and the whole thought process goes all over the place. But it's I kind of put it as, or phrase it as, like an ecosystem. It's just being there so that when they are at that stage, so if they're problem unaware, you're, as you say, you're either making contact, making content, doing things that are helping stimulate those ideas of awareness of like, oh crap, we have that problem. And then when they are problem aware, providing resources, collateral, tools, etc., that they can use to then become solution aware and eventually buyer aware and product aware of your brand, your company, ideally. You mentioned in there as well, like the sort of transition you went through, say, from the early doors of sales, where it was a little bit more self-incentivized, to where things are at now. Would you say that's more through sheer force of how the market's just evolved, or sellers have grown a conscience in that time? Like what's happened there from your side?
I think we've understood sales better.
Mm,
So if you think about it, late 80s or in the 80s, it was very much that close. It's like greed is good. It's all that kind of manipulative type stuff, which
yeah,
I think people realize, hang on, this isn't very
great.
good, really, is it? Sea change was the 90s, was C for consultative selling, where people say, if we actually help people with their needs, we might do a better job here, because that's what people respond to better, because we understand a bit better how they think. Oh, right, okay. Well, actually, so then let's understand, the trip into value. So it's the research, the money that's spent in sales to make it better. We've understood these things better and better, and I think also more information is out there. So people can self-diagnose, people can sort themselves out, because
Yeah.
we're producing all this stuff. I don't need to speak to a salesperson. So the salesperson has to be better to earn the right to even have that conversation.
Mm,
So otherwise people are going to say, well, I don't need to talk to you. You just come in and show me stuff. Your website does that. I don't need a walk-in website.
that's
Yeah, I
very
can actually open 4 different ones, yours and your competitors, at once, and get that same information, and not have to sit in a 2-hour meeting with you boring this, it's been
true.
boring me to death. So the salesperson has to be better in adding value in their interactions. And
Mm,
that's where I think, salespeople think, am I adding value in what I'm doing? And so that's been kind of where that evolution that I've seen has been happening.
yeah.
And then the next, it's towards ethical selling. Book
Yeah.
3 on my desk now, hard copy
I'm
edit. Well, it is, because if you think about it, people are now saying, okay, well, yeah, I need people who are going to help my thinking and doing this, but they've got to be decent in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And if people don't believe it, I say, okay, well, have a look. Look at the compliance that you have to jump through the hoops of for many companies to go and sell to them.
Mm,
Your slavery policy, you've what's it, the CSR, all these kind of things. Or if not, I'd say, well, actually, not many people like talking to dicks. So if you behave badly
that's
and all that, you're not getting through the door. So have a look at kind of what ethical is, and bring that into the sort of the things that we can do and how we think.
mm,
Then we'll set ourselves apart. So it's just, yeah, that kind of evolution and how we've moved along is partly sales driven, in that we've realized we've got to be better, but customers saying, hey, we demand more,
yeah.
we deserve more, and you're not helping us, so I'm actually not going to talk to you if you don't do that.
And it for sellers to be able to create more value, because obviously there's the skill side of sales around, sales will always have a set of skills around persuasion, being a good person, being able to use tonality and not be, as I said, not be a dick, and just be a genuine, real person that can hold a good conversation and ask the right questions to navigate and influence someone to move forward and progress. But at the same time, now they have to add value because, as you said, there's all the information's out there already. If someone wants to find it, even companies that don't want to put their pricing on their website, anytime I've done that, I've just gone pricing for this, and there's some review page that has the pricing on there anyway. Uh, how do sellers start adding value into their buyers' interactions?
You've got to ignore the advice that you got at school, or which many trainers, myself included,
Yep.
have done in the past. And that is where teacher gets on the whiteboard, on the chalkboard, probably when I was there, and writes assume. Okay. And then puts a line between the ass and the line between the you and me. Yeah. Don't assume it makes an ass of you and me. No, absolutely assume. You have to assume. Now, they need to be intelligent assumptions. So
Mm,
based on you understanding the customer, their world, their issues, problems, challenges, jobs to be done, struggles, you can start to make some intelligent assumptions around, this is probably what's going on for them. And this is where they might be suffering a little bit. And this is where there's an opportunity for them. So then you use this assumption, or hypothesis, if you want to use a proper word,
yeah.
and take that as the thing that you're going to use to kickstart those discussions. So when you're talking about sort of being problem unaware, it's kind of that. It's like going in and saying, hey, look, this stuff is going on, or here are some things which you could be thinking about. That's where you're going to add value in the interaction, because you open up that thinking, and then you can use that to kind of manage the way in which you ask questions, to go deeper, and to use the questions to help people get their head around stuff.
Yep.
To then move on and say, okay, well, we could sort of take this, and we've got some ideas around it. So actually, that sales motion, it isn't dissimilar to the trying to smash the door down selling, but it's a bit more elegant, even sophisticated, I would say. Yeah, it doesn't mean it's complicated, but sophisticated in how you're helping that as you're moving forward.
Bit more finesse to
So
the
so insights, perspectives, yeah,
yeah.
that kind of stuff. Finessed, yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, put a little fancy word in there. So, because with that, it's almost becoming more important now. I feel that sellers, they don't necessarily need to be experts in the field, but they need to know whatever field they're in very well. Because if they don't know the field, like for example, some sellers will say, if you can sell something, you can sell everything. Now, to some merit, that has some truth behind it. But that doesn't mean like I could go in, like you were talking about your friend that sells billion-dollar wind turbine deals, for example. Just because I know how to sell doesn't mean I could go in tomorrow and start selling billion-dollar wind turbine deals because I don't know that space from anything. I don't know, never heard of how that process works. So how important is industry expertise becoming in the sales process and for sellers individually if they want to excel in their specific company?
Yeah, I mean, when you say an expert in the field, is the field the product or the problem?
The product.
So an expert in selling will become an expert in the problem.
Mm,
Yeah, there will be other experts in product as and when we need them.
yeah.
Yeah, so if you can understand, like I say, the issues that somebody will be having and kind of how you can take that and how you can refine your message around that, you can open up the conversation, you can get them thinking about it because you're relating it back to their world. And
Mm,
if we mean that by that the field, it's their world and what they're trying to achieve, it's a very different thing from, oh, here is my product and here are the things which do these things to do that. That's part of the solution and we need that.
mm,
And so, I get quite opinionated on this product or problem thing that actually to be too well trained in product can be a bit counterproductive
yeah.
because you start to get blinkered by that. And it probably at the expense of actually doing sales training anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's not the same thing. And said, oh, well, that's what I talk about. And that's what people must be interested in. Why? Because I'm interested in it.
Mm,
Yeah. And that's why companies told me people are interested in it. And the person who designed it has told me how great this new thing is. So I've got to go and share this. And the person goes, yeah, great. I'm really happy with you, little thing. I'm trying to solve this issue that I've got in my business. Right, and the connection isn't made that actually that thing could be helping them. It's part of helping them. So I would say that to be expert in the field is to be expert in selling and to understand these are the ways in which we go about helping people to think, which
yeah.
starts with us thinking like a partner. Yeah. So you can actually sort of, you could probably go into wind turbine world with a good solid understanding of selling. Just make sure you got all the people who understand the spinny bits and the composite bits and the electricity transporting bits,
Or that, yeah.
so to speak, are there, and don't call them those things, and kind of use the proper language and when they need to talk to the engineers about that. But it's probably not the
It's,
engineers that are having that discussion
mm.
because they're not kind of driving the initial decision and thinking about why we're even looking at this stuff.
And then it's on me to, as a part of, if I was to say go into that space, as a part of that transition to, as you said, not obsess over the product, obsess over the problem that is
Yeah.
happening within that space, which that doesn't take, you don't need an engineering degree to know how the spinny thing works and stuff to do that.
Yeah.
But you do need to do the diligence to go do the research and whether that's speaking to
Yeah.
people, doing in-market research to really understand, okay, why do people want to buy this thing and what are the problems they're trying to solve by buying this thing? What where do you, or what are some of the methodologies that you recommend to sellers to start that process of obsessing over the problem? Where do they go? Who do they talk to? What does that process look like?
Yeah. So, well, so the methodology I use is the one I wrote in the book. And of course I'm going to promote that one.
Do a
Well,
shameless
so
plug.
I talk about the value framework. Yeah. So it's validate, align, leverage, underpin, evolve. So nice spangly words to make it to make the acronym. But really that's about having the right opportunities
Yep.
to do the right research, to then have the right conversations to make sure we've got the right problems, and then make sure we deliver on those right outcomes, the right problems, the right proposals, presentations, and then get the right solution in place. So let's go back to the very beginning. I think that's what the question was. It's like, getting the right opportunities. It's like, understand who it is you're selling to. The ICP. What does the ideal customer profile look like? Who are they? And then we can get into all the demographics and all that sort of thing. But again, we tend not to go deep enough. It's like, well, why are those demographics? What is it they care about? What is it that's giving them the problem? What concerns have they got? What struggles? What things could actually we rock up and help them with? Because then we can form a broad value proposition, which is for all of them. And it is broad, but it's mainly around these are sort of things we could help them with. And that starts to build our messaging. So all the stuff we're ever saying or doing is all about them. Stuff you put on LinkedIn, phone calls you're making, emails you're sending, presentations you're doing at conferences, all about them. So that we can then start to engage them. And again, there's an element of outreach in that for the ones who look right for you, to get them into the pipeline, so we can be saying, right, okay, now let's do the research around these. Let's go deep. So who are the key players, the decision-making unit? What are those things they care about? The external drivers is something that most people miss. The things which are happening outside their organization, which are causing them to have to do something, because otherwise, why would they bother changing? Change is hard. We don't do that. So the external drivers, so we can talk about, hey, this stuff is happening outside your organization. That's why you're having to respond to it. And that's why you're finding it painful. So then we can, these conversations, that message and that value proposition is getting more specific. It's getting tighter. It's more relevant to them. So this earns us the right to go into having the conversations with the relevant people around that stuff.
And that in itself demonstrates a degree of expertise. That's a challenge, like if we refer back to what we we're chatting about before with the wind turbines, a challenge that I see founders go through, especially if they're either coming out of founder-led sales or they've just got a small team. The founder generally knows what it is they're selling pretty well, because they've obviously either created it or co-created it. And a lot of the time founders don't have a background, like especially in professional services. If it's an accountant, lawyer, personal trainer, gym owner, they're obsessed over their particular vertical. Let's say it's a lawyer. They know the law. But they will go through, oh, well, subsection this, and blah, 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 and go through the expertise completely over the head of the prospect that they're speaking to. And they're like, okay, but how does that relate to my problem? I see that trap founders fall into, where they drink their own Kool-Aid too much, and they believe that they have the best thing, and they talk so much about the thing and not the problem. With getting someone, I guess, to detach from the product, the thing, the service, etc. If you were speaking to a founder and get them more obsessed with the problem, obviously they start with that framework, but what are some of the mental shifts that they need to go through to start seeing that change?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways with founders, it can be almost harder because it's their baby. So it's not like somebody who's joined a company and been product trained to death. They've created this thing. Okay, a lawyer hasn't created the law, an accountant hasn't created accounting practices, but they've created their baby or their thing to deliver on that, and they're very, very close to it, and have years of expertise invested in getting bloody good at what they do. And that's what's got them that far. So yeah, we've got to almost kind of not detach them from it, not say that this stuff is irrelevant, but it's just got to be deployed in a better way. And so it's process. It's process. Sales is process. All those things that I said, I was giving you kind of this high overview of like the value framework, but then some of those elements within each of those parts, they're things that you can do. And if you follow this and you do this and you do this and you do this and you do this, this will get you where you need to be. Little bit like if you are, and I'll try and find the analogy in their world. If you're accounting, you do this and then you do this and then you do this and then you do this. So there's an accounting process, just as a sales process. So we just have to equip you with another process. And the good news is your brain is wired for this. It'd be better to do with you because you can think. You're a smart person. We've just got to make sure that when it's sales stuff, listen to me. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how to account. I'm not going to tell you what the law is. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how to be a PT.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I've got PT qualification, but I'm still not going to do that. Follow me through on the sales stuff and let's do it. And again, this is another important thing when it comes to sort of training or I mean, I talk about training because people can understand that. People sometimes say, no, it's more than that what you do. Because for me, it's all about implementation, not information.
Yeah.
Okay, so read the book and off you go and do it. Or listen to a couple of these podcasts or watch this video series. For people who really care, they will go through the whole process, the accelerator, we call it, where it's learn a little bit, now go and do it.
Mm.
And then take what we've done, see if we need to tweak it, but we're going to use that to add into the next phase.
Yeah.
And then we can teach a bit more if you like, and then go coaching, teaching, coaching, teaching, coaching. Yeah, again, technically it's not that, but just imagine that there is different. It's just kind of input and doing, input and doing. So people are getting results as they're moving along, seeing that it makes sense, not overwhelming them with too much information, and feeling confident that it's starting to make sense.
Yeah.
So rather than at the very beginning going, right, we're going to get your value prop so bloody good. Actually, no, I started off by just saying, why should I buy from you? And people give an answer. Okay, that's cool. It's usually pretty bad, to be fair, but only in comparison to where we're going to end up. So I'll say, okay, let's have a look at it like this. And when you want to answer this question, there's what you do and there's why people care. Let's put a little bit more about why people care.
Mm.
Oh, and we get a little tweak. And that'll do for that first section because I know that we can refine as we're going along
Mm.
rather than trying to do everything in a wanna, which will probably tend not to work really.
Yeah, and if we relate it to, say, a health and fitness journey that someone would go
Yeah.
through, it's like you don't overhaul their entire lifestyle straight away. And let's make some little changes one at a time. And for some people, just swapping out Coke for water, that's a
Yeah.
great step in the right direction. And progressively over time, because the theory of getting in shape and being healthy, etc., is not difficult or not rocket science. It's all over the internet. But if you move your body regularly on a daily basis, you eat relatively well, you will generally be a relatively healthy person. But it's in the implementation and having the guidance of someone that knows what they're doing that really does make the difference. Because that's obviously what you do on a day-to-day basis.
It's a cracking analogy. Yeah, you're not going to get somebody in and go, right, awesome. Yeah, you'll be a good client. Right, over there, deadlifts. I mean, you're going to break somebody. Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're not, well, later on in your fitness journey, they probably are quite fun, but early on, it's not much fun doing that. It's certainly not for the next couple of days, is it? So again, it's this doing stuff to help them build the habit and to sort of just keep coming back in the gym because what you've given them is fun. It is easy. They see a reasonably quick result. They start to feel the progress. And I've actually thought more and more about this quick start stuff to give people, that kind of, hey, we're seeing stuff already.
yeah,
And then we can go into the more kind of detailed stuff, and then these things which will start to make the learning curve steeper. So
yeah.
yeah, it's cracking analogy that.
Yeah, and then and obviously it is something that you do on a day-to-day basis with companies, with founders, with sales teams. Um, from your side as a coach, what are some of the bigger challenges that you face with not only helping someone implement these sort of processes, but adapting that, I guess, to multiple companies at a time?
Yeah, I mean, but by keeping it, it's interesting, and this is something I'm working on at the moment. In that, I believe sales is a sophisticated thing, and I use that word already, but it doesn't mean it can't be simple. But it's sophisticated because there's a whole bunch of things which come together to make it work well. But
Mm,
we want to do it elegant, with finesse, like you said. So it's actually taking the thing which is reasonably simple and kind of giving that as the information and the task. No need to show off. I've grown out of that. Look how clever I am with big words and wonderful theories and all this sort of stuff.
yeah,
And trainers can do that. It's like, oh, don't need that anymore. My ego's okay. So we go into like, just here's the thing, go and do it. And it's just, it literally is encouraging someone to do it and making it easy for them to do, because it's an easy concept to get their head around, and it's not a massive drag on, because people say time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very easy to say, well, what else you can do with your time? Because your job really is, I mean, as a full-time salesperson, to sell, or as a founder at this stage, to sell. And
Mm.
that's not helpful. It's just, okay, well, look, this won't take long. Well, we can always pretty much do it now. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it just make it easy to apply that stuff, not overwhelm people, so they can see something coming as a result of it. That's where we get the impact, the results, if you like. Now, sadly, a lot of people will see the program built like that. It's 12 weeks. That's too long compared to the lifetime of your company. It probably isn't. And when we say it's actually 3 hours a week where it's out of your diary, so to speak. But anyway, it should be very much fully front of your mind. It's not. But if you think like that, are you ready for this? Are you going to be successful? Are you going to do any of the stuff? Or do you want to do a little lunchtime learning thing where, oh, I went to an hour session on negotiation yesterday. I know how to negotiate.
Yep.
I've never split the difference.
No,
I understand the concept of tactical empathy. I'm going to be an ace negotiator. Mm, Okay, have you practiced it?
yeah.
No. Fine. So
Yeah.
it's just making sure that it's easy enough for people to do those things, take those smaller steps, which then aggregate up. And of course, because we're then, particularly what I'm doing, we get people to identify an opportunity that they're going to try to win. So they're kind of adding well, it's a buyer's journey, they're kind of adding the stuff along there. Hopefully we get to the end of it. But hey, what a bunch of business doing that.
Yeah.
Right, okay, well in that case, you are going to carry on doing it then, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, ideally, otherwise, well,
Yeah.
some people
Yeah, no, we're going to stop now.
don't do that. Yeah.
Why?
Let's pull the pin on that one. Are there any companies that you ever look or come to you or you speak to for help that you ever look at their situation and think maybe they're too far gone or not a right fit for your company? Or do you think once the right processes are in place, any company can run an effective collaborative sales process?
Um, I don't, would I'm not sure there's anybody that is too far gone, but there's a couple of things to do to get the show on the road. And if people aren't really willing to do that, then it's not so much the too far gone, it's just that the mindset isn't right. There's got to be an element of growth mindset.
Yep.
I used to have a ton of hair. Yeah, and I think I pulled it all out in training world, because I did go through this phase where I was trying to save everyone. Yeah,
Yep.
even to the point that you would be in the classroom and there'd be like somebody who didn't want to be there, a training hostage. Okay. But a ton of people who did. My focus went on the person who didn't want to be there and trying to turn them around and try to help them and try to change their mind. Which is utterly ridiculous, really, because they very rarely did. And it cost the attention on the people who wanted to really do something. So again, it's almost like qualification, I suppose, if we want to use salesy words. It's like saying, hang on, okay, I can't really help you. I'm not going to exclude you. I'm just not going to kill myself doing it, because there's others here that do want the help.
Yeah.
So people tend to self-select out. That it's like, oh yeah, can we have a chat? Okay, we'll just do this. I have this little scorecard thing. It takes 5 minutes to fill in. Why didn't you do that? I didn't have time. Okay, you didn't have time to prepare for the call while you're asking me to try and help you. Not a good sign already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although you're the sales trainer, you tell me what to do. So, well, you've got to give me some information. Well, no, you should know. Well, okay, I have a pretty good idea, but so I'd never say anyone's too far gone, but there would probably people qualify out.
Yeah. I love that approach.
Going with my own partnership thing, it takes two to tango, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I've implemented process like that. I call it like tasking, where you just give them small little tasks to do, especially if you're selling something that's of relative value, a relative high ticket price. If they can't take 5 minutes to fill out a little questionnaire to help better inform themselves, not just inform you, to make the call more relevant, are they really going to be a great customer or a client? Probably not. So I use that as a filter mechanism as well to just move people out that aren't, serious about solving the problem yet. Maybe they will be in the future, but at this stage it might not be a right fit. Uh, who do you find you're the perfect fit for? What stage company is the best time to bring someone like yourself in?
Um, That's an interesting one when you talk about stage. I mean, well, I've worked with companies who've been around hundreds of years. There's one company who I'm trying to get them to stop saying, we've been around 140 years. I'm saying, why do you keep telling people that? Oh, 'cause it's really good. I said, well, it's
Yes.
irrelevant in most cases. I'm here today. I need a solution now and for the next 3 years. Don't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it shows that we've been. I said, no, it just shows you're a bit self-centered, to be honest.
Mm.
Oh, we have loads of arguments about that. It's becoming a bit of a joke now. They're sort of getting it. So, I mean, yeah, you could have people who've been around loads. I'm working with a little startup actually. I've said, having said I don't really get involved in SaaS or tech, I am working with a couple of guys who they've only been around, say, only for about 8, 9 months, and they're just
Yeah.
getting their head around the fact that actually, yes, we're founders and we are too closely wed to our technical solution. Can you help us get out of that into the selling mindset? So,
Yep.
so it could be from sort of 8 months to 150 years.
Mm.
Um, I tend to I tend to work best with engineering or manufacturing companies.
Okay.
Just I guess because that's what I've done a lot in that world. I've kind of got that background, but then I've worked in IT. I ran a beer academy for like 8 years, and that was pretty cool.
Your academy, that's
Do we count that as work? Yeah, I flew around the world telling people how to sell Corona beer. Yeah, I know.
that's a
Tough
niche,
job. Someone had to do it.
niche
So
before.
there's I'm more about the kind of the value graphics and the demographics.
Mm.
In that, are you going to be able to change? Have you got this growth mindset? Is it something that you do care about? Yeah, and you are able to step out of comfort zone and stuff.
Mm.
I'm more bothered about that than
Yeah.
sort of where you're based,
High
what you
stakes.
sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So whether it's a 1,000-person company or a 50-person company, the process is the same. It just depends if the leadership and the participants have the growth mindset to actually want to change some things.
It's broadly that. It's broadly that. And again, you do sometimes see, and because I class it as sales training, and people might say, oh, sometimes it's a tick box exercise. Oh, we want someone to come in to do 2 days when we're all off site, and then we're all going to go off and go kart
And
and drink
everything
some
the
beers,
same.
whatever it is. And it's like, are we going to make a massive difference? So then I have a tough decision because it's like, well, do I go in and actually I could make some difference, or actually no, it's a complete waste of time. This I don't really want to cover my name next to it.
Yeah.
So they're probably the hardest decisions, but it's people to say, right, no, we get it. We need to make these shifts. Okay, right. Well, this is how you're going to have to do these things.
Mm.
Oh, you told me you need to make the shifts.
Yeah.
This is how it works.
An interesting point you made there that I think a lot of people miss in the sales space is your name being attached to the work, as we'll call it the conveyor belt sales process of knock them through, knock them through, knock them through. My theory, and you might be able to actually validate this theory for me because you've been in the game for a long time. My theory is the longer you're in sales, the easier in a sense it should get because of the strength of your network, the relationships that you build, and the goodwill that you do continuously obviously give value and provide good services versus burning through a bunch of people just trying to, whether it's going for the high salary or whatever, pushing people through meetings and leaving a wake of negative experiences behind you. Um, but it's not often that people or founders, sellers, etc., think about that long-term side and okay, what's this actually going to do for my reputation if I operate in this way? Um, do you find that, have you found that in your career that as you've progressed and done better work and done more work, that in a sense it's got easier because there's more trust and relationships you've built?
Um, it's got a bit easier because I think it's easier to enhance reputation, if that makes
Mm.
sense. So I mean, you've got to have some, and the kind of the whole personal brand and that kind of thing. I think there's three elements to it. Yeah, there's purpose, practice, and profile. A
Mm.
load of people love the profile bit, posting on LinkedIn, doing TikToks, all the let me tell you how awesome I am at stuff. Yeah, that's the wrong way around. I think we've got to start with purpose, like what you're actually trying to do. What's the impact you're looking for? Why are you doing it? Practice actually doing it, going out, getting those results, walking the talk, and then talking the walk. A lot
Yeah.
of people just want to do the whole profile branding bit. So
Understand.
when you are doing those things now, and this is what I was talking about, so in the 2010s, the word I was using was sales stature. I didn't have any other word for it, which was how can you position yourself as the go-to person because you know what you're on about, you get what the customers are going through, and people want to come and talk to you as a result. The reputation.
Yeah.
Now we call personal branding, but again, a lot of people in worlds I work hate that term, hate it. I don't want to be like Kim Kardashian, and it's like, well, no, you don't have to be. So actually, I talk about that reputation and reputation enhancement now.
Yep.
And there's more ways in which you can do that more effectively without much extra work, to be fair.
Mm.
I mean, our job is to promote ourselves and the business. Yeah, that's kind of the model that we're working to. But somebody working, in a territory, working for a larger company, they can still position themselves as someone who knows their stuff by kind of using social media a bit smart and just the way in which they're networking and kind of making sure that people are passing on that this is someone who's worth talking to.
Yeah. And just to distinguish as well, when you talk about personal brand and knowing your stuff, presenting yourself as an expert, so to speak, an expert in the problems and challenges, not necessarily how the fidget thing spins and the dots connect and all that stuff.
Yeah. Again, that will be the stuff that gets people's attention.
Yes.
Because they'll go, oh yeah, you're talking to me. That's a problem I have. You must understand my world, rather than, okay, you've just taken stuff off your own company website and are promoting this particular thing. It's not very, again, it's the same as if you start in a meeting, someone comes in and go, oh, look at my suitcase full of samples and blah, blah, blah. You're like,
Awesome, I am.
no, don't want to. Yeah. So go back to problem you're solving. And why I say it's reasonably easy for kind of anyone to do it, individual contributor, salesperson. Okay, founders might be listening to this. There's no reason you can't up just LinkedIn. Let's just look at that. Up your LinkedIn game with 3 sorts of posts. So you're going to post 3 times a week. Engage, educate, entice.
Yeah.
Engage. Picture a cat. What you did at the weekend. And people hate this stuff. Oh, it's not bloody Facebook. No, it's not. But people want to know the person behind.
Yeah.
So those engage posts, there is a place for them. Now, some people just only do that because they get addicted to the dopamine because they get a ton of engagement. Yeah, and it's like, well, no, you're not just about that. You're about the problem you solve, which is the educate.
Yeah.
So this is the okay. So, and all you got to do is look at an interesting conversation you had last week, and almost like no names, no pat drill, but just talk about that conversation. This is a problem a customer had, and this is the stuff that we did, and this is kind of how it impacted them, and so this is what we did, and that's your educate piece. It's tell people, to help them become that problem aware that you talked about.
Yeah.
Entice is the one where you actually want them to do something. So come along to my webinar, listen to my podcast, go and look at my scorecard. And again, if you do too many of those, people tend to blank that out. So just those 3 sorts, if you're going to start almost from scratch, you say, okay, 3 times a week, that sounds a lot, Fred. No, it's 1 of each of those a week. One of them is just selfie from the weekend. Yeah. One is what you talk to somebody about that was interesting from a professional point of view. And then one is pointing them towards something, and which could be an educate piece anyway.
Yeah.
But maybe it's on your website to capture some data, some leads, and then you can carry on afterwards as well. So it's quite an easy thing to do. Every salesperson should do that.
Yeah.
Think for 20, 30, 40 strong sales team. If everybody did that, it'd be pretty cool.
That not echo chamber, the amplification of that message will carry much more than doing 200 cold calls blindly a day, trying to find that one person that's possibly having the problem that it is that you solve. It's being a bit smarter with your time, really.
299 calls and 1 post. I mean, you pretty much, you don't have to be mutually exclusive. It takes a bit of practice to get into the habit of doing them, but once you know how to do it, it's pretty quick. Benefit for the organization, benefit for the individual, because again, the people are seeing it. Their customers who are on that messy buying process, where they don't really know where they are, but they see something, and that little thing you said just helps them make that next little step, but has also positioned you in their brain as somebody that actually, what I would probably talk to them about this.
Yeah,
makes more sense to do that.
I heard Chris Walker reference it. He was specifically referencing it in regards to paid ads, but same can be applied with organic, etc. Calling it digital air cover, where someone's in pipeline at whatever stage of that, or maybe not even in pipeline, but they're just in your world, maybe problem aware, learning, etc. And the more they start to see of you and in that ecosystem, the more familiar they become with you. I've had clients that uh, one of my clients specifically, he had a lady come on the call with him, and she said to him, "I feel like I'm on the call with a celebrity." Not because he's famous, but just because she had seen his face so many times across socials through retargeting, through his content, through emails, and through all the digital channels that he was accessing her, that by the time he had a conversation, he had elevated to celebrity status in her mind. And sometimes we do that, I guess, with these social channels. Like we obviously have our favorites, whether it's in the sales world, marketing world, finance world, where we put them on a pedestal as like they're famous. But in any other sphere, no one would know who the hell they are. But it's just because they're doing what you call it, whether you call it personal branding or the term, what did you call it?
Reputation enhancement.
Reputation.
Yeah.
All they're doing is just putting themselves out there, and it's giving that same perception.
Yeah. And you get more familiar with them. And
Mm.
there's this magic thing I heard somewhere, like this 7 hours, that when you spend 7 hours with somebody, then it changes. Your brain changes the relationship that you consider you have with them. You know,
Mm.
you feel as though you know them better. You know, whether they're quite a friend, I'm not quite right, but you know, if somebody is consuming quite a lot of stuff that you're putting out there, they do feel as though they know you a lot better. That's why we
Yeah.
get dead sad when a celebrity dies. Oh,
Yeah.
when Bowie died, I was gutted, but I've never met the bloke. But you know, I liked his music. I'd kind of watched in stuff. I thought his story was quite interesting and read something. You know, there's this thing that goes on, so people are more familiar with you. So you are going to
Mm.
conversations with people knowing you.
Yeah.
That's a new dynamic. That just wasn't even a thing when I was first training back in the day.
I think that's the
So I have
power.
to equip people to go in with people and they've already made the first impression of you before they've met you.
Yeah.
That's just double Dutch, isn't it, really? If I'd said that to myself back in the day, like, what you on about, Coach State?
Yeah. Must look at the sales landscape now and think, Jesus, this is so easy compared to what I had to deal with 20 odd years ago. Because you're 100% right. The fact, I think it was Google that did the study. It was around the 7 hours, but you can put out X amount of hours of video content that someone can consume. So as you said, by the time they actually hold the conversation with you, they kind of feel like they know you because they've watched
Yeah,
or consumed you for
yeah,
X many hours before that.
yeah. It's easier. I'm not sure because it's noisier. Um, but then cutting through the noise, it's kind of what we've been talking about. I'm not sure we actually used the word we probably should, which is
Yep.
relevant. It's
Yes.
being relevant. So yeah, all the stuff you're putting out, you know, and when you know that ICP and the person that you want to serve and who you want to talk to and their problems, and you talk about that, that's relevant to them.
Mm,
And that's when the brain is like, whoa, okay, yes, this is for me, and I'm interested. Compared
yeah.
to all the other stuff and noise and just nonsense going on, whoa, that's my stuff. Who's this guy? Ah, okay. Oh, constantly talking about this. Interesting. Yeah,
Mm,
relevance is the biggie.
yeah. And that's a huge one. I heard Gary Vee say something about like there's never been an easier time to get into business, but there's never been a harder time to stand out in business because the barrier to entry is so low. Like anyone can start posting stuff every day on LinkedIn or TikTok or whatever and be noisy, but are they relevant? As you said, are they relevant to who they're trying to speak to? And that's, I think, the trap you alluded to before of uh, just trying to be everything to everyone. Our solution is everything to everyone, rather than narrowing in on what problem are we trying to solve and who are we trying to solve it for.
And it's easier to understand their problems. I mean, think about it. Generative AI now, knowing how to manage a little conversation with it so that you can ask it to be the person that you are wanting to sell to ask it what the pressures it's under and the impacts of those pressures and that kind of stuff. That we've got experience, you know, and you'd have to be in an industry for years and years and years and years and years, and or have some bloody good people telling you this stuff to be able to then go, ah, okay, this is what the customer cares about. Whereas now you can go in and you can talk to the AI and it can give you some decent stuff that your human brain just needs to filter and make sure it's not just made it up.
Yeah.
But that's probably what's going on in their world.
Mm.
Awesome. I'm so far ahead of the game now.
Yeah. And what used to take an hour can be done in 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
By asking, obviously using the tool the right way. Um,
Yeah.
we have been chatting for a while, so I'm conscious of your
Yeah.
time and upcoming meetings, but it's a sign of a good conversation when it
It's
flies by
just
for
flown, hasn't it?
20.
It's just flown. It's been great.
Uh, but to wrap this up, Fred, where can people find you? Obviously, you've got some books. We can see them behind you as well. Where do they go to learn more about your work?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn would be the best place to do that.
Yep.
Fred Copestake. With that name, I've got that handle on all the platforms, so TikTok and all those kind of things, which I'm just having a bit of a play with. I'm experimenting. Again, if you're going
Yep.
to talk to people about being up to date, but go to LinkedIn, connect, mention this podcast, and there's some bits and pieces that I can point you in the direction of, which will carry on our conversation. So yeah, absolutely, find me there.
Awesome. Thanks, Fred. And thanks for having or taking the time to come on and helping us with helping the world shape better buying experiences. Pardon the pun. But that's the whole aim of what we're doing. And I think all the gold that you shared today is messages that people need to hear, especially around modern day selling in a sense, but just being a good human being and actually helping people solve problems. Uh, so again, thank you for the time, much appreciated, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.